this one's going to see another King's Indian. But we're doing the old switcheroo. The last game saw me on the opposite side. So we're going with a Fianchetto King's Indian because I played d4. I'm typically not an automatic English type of guy. But after e5, now I actually have studied this position quite a bit for both sides. And the simplest move here, to me, is actually the most frustrating for black. So I started playing this a while back. D takes e5. And it should be noted that knight takes e5 is pretty terrible for black, even though it's played on a regular basis by even extremely strong players. Strong grandmasters play this. Now, why it's so bad is the pawn structure. This dynamic of pawns without the e-pawn, with my control over d5, makes it to where c6, d5 is not a possibility. If you ever touch the c-pawn, the d-pawn becomes the target. Bishop f4, queen d2, rook d1. I can continually add pressure until it falls. So if you can't press your queenside pawns, and you don't want to move the pawns in front of your king, all you can do is kind of maneuver your pieces around because white has more space and a superior structure. So let's see it in motion here. b3, takes, bishop h3. I don't want to trade b's. c6 makes the weakness. Queen d2. I'm putting pressure. Already black's having to defend while I'm just developing pieces and attacking. Bishop d4. Don't mind trading that b off. That was your good one. b2. Get all the pressure on that weakness. Don't mind trading now because we can improve to the point of breaking. b3. And by the way, this game is played between two grandmasters. And after rook takes, rook check. And I loved how clean this game ended up between these two strong players. So white didn't have to do much other than hit the weakness, and then black fell apart. D takes e5 is the better move for this reason. And after bishop g5, how about a game between Geary and Dubov? h6, we take, knight d5, and after knight takes c7 and e4, this game actually went on to be drawn because the bishop pair is worth quite a lot still in chess, even worth a pawn potentially. Hard to say who's better here, but in a practical game, I'm taking white. Pawn in the hand and all that. Bishop e6 was played, which is the main move, and I decided to get a bit fancy. Knight d2, takes, knight d5, much better was knight de4, followed by knight d5, where white just gets this easy developmental scheme. Now, me being me, I confused my move order. And after b6, I already get ideas about how discoveries could matter. And here I should play queen a4, hitting the c6 knight and the a7 pawn. I decided to play e3 to overprotect the d4 square to make sure his knight couldn't hop in. Rook c1, and after knight b5, the c7 pawn is hit, and it's hard to deal with. And this is the moment of truth for black. So this is a pause your video, and what would you do with black here? Hopefully you paused and figured it out. e4 is good to go because if I take and you go bishop g8, I defend the b pawn, and after knight e5, black has solid chances for the gambited pawn. I'm having trouble coordinating still against the b pair. My bishop on g2 is shut down. His knight's headed to d3 with good effect. My opponent, on the other hand, played rook f7 to defend the pawn, and that doesn't quite work here because rook takes c7 is met strongly by queen takes d8, followed by capturing on c7. So my opponent is just down a pawn, and I'm continuing the attack. I have compensation, and I'm up material, so I'm trading down, hitting the knight on c6. Give me another one. Stopping that bishop. And rook c2. Here, there is a very, very nice move for white that I did not consider at all. It's extremely counterintuitive in my opinion. My rook's hit, and my queen is in a good spot, and I don't want to antagonize black too much to bother her, but knight takes f5 is just this beautiful little move, because for instance, if knight takes, rook takes, we have bishop takes e4, where there's nothing he can do to stop this like mate threat. And it's just ridiculous. And if he doesn't take on c1 and takes on f5, it's still bishop takes e4 with this big, there's nothing you can do about the fact that I'm either mating you or taking your rook, and I can just press on here. The extra pawns will win it. Really, really nice tactic. Rook c2 is played in the game, though. Bothering my queen, so I move. And here, again, another beautiful tactic missed. Bishop takes e4, followed by queen takes e5. And you get this big trade down, but white is winning the ending here. Extra pawns again. When up material, trade down. Hopefully you're getting this theme. Bishop h3. I took on f5. g4 secures the piece. And I like this line when I first found it because black's queen and rook are coordinated on the f-file, and I'm just keeping my king safe. I didn't mind getting rid of black's best piece because I understood that he doesn't have counterplay. And when your opponent doesn't have counterplay, there's really no plan. And you'll see my pieces just magically coordinate here as time trouble is beginning to start. And no weaknesses, no problems. The pawns march on. The king goes up the board. And there's really nothing that can be done. Got to watch out for tactics. This is really his only shot, is playing this. So stop it. And calculated with c7. Simply traded. And we've got the 3-0 special on the king side, which is more than enough to win the game. We do the dance. Don't do repetitions. And then finally, we get to a position where black has had enough and forfeited on time.